There's a new underground railroad in Afghanistan. It's helping people get out of the country. This operation, I know you call it Task Force Pineapple.
They went back into the fray, holding these cell phones to their ears for hours at a time with no sleep, no relief, no 12-hour shift, as their friends, their Afghan partners, and their children were beaten by the Taliban at the checkpoints.
And they've now rescued close to 1,000 people trying to get out of Afghanistan right now. With this commando you helped rescue, the first one, you said he was getting text messages that, was it death threats?
Death threats, being beheaded. They were knocking on doors in his neighborhood. His time was up. And had they caught him, he would have been executed. This is a guy who had been shot through the face protecting U.S. Special Forces in combat. We had to honor that promise.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. As we speak right now, there's a new underground railroad in Afghanistan. It's helping people get out of the country. This is being run by veterans and by current service members in Afghanistan, veterans outside the country. And they've now rescued close to 1,000 people trying to get out of Afghanistan right now. Here to talk with us about this is Lieutenant Colonel retired Scott Mann, also retired Green Beret. And Scott, it's a real pleasure having you on Crossroads.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So can you tell us first of all about this operation? I know you call it Task Force Pineapple. How did this whole thing start?
Well, you know, it all started with one Afghan commando named Nezam. And I had known him as a Green Beret. I think it was my third tour to Afghanistan. I met him when he went through the Special Forces course, the Afghan Special Forces course. I spoke at his graduation. And I went on combat patrols with him multiple times, and I was a friend. He was a friend, and I watched him progress throughout his career. We stayed in touch, and he even went to our Special Forces qualification course at Fort Bragg. I mean, he is quite the warrior, and started to get targeted by the Taliban the last couple of years in the war, and had applied for a special immigrant visa. I had endorsed it along with others. And but it just took forever. It didn't get approved, and it was awaiting chief of mission approval, like so many of the others. And when Kabul fell, it became, you know, very, very clear that he was not going to be able to get out, and that he was going to be executed, him and his family. And you know, he was getting text messages saying that. And he was living in his uncle's house, like Anne Frank, you know, and there was no way for him to move across the city. He was Uzbek. He didn't speak, Pashto, which is what the Taliban speak, and he wasn't familiar with Kabul. So even though the State Department, even if they told him to come in, there was no way for him to come in. And so, you know, at that point, it seemed to me that some kind of action, you know, that was reasonably necessary to prevent either, you know, death or serious harm to him needed to be done. And you know, because we had made a promise to him. He was in the SIV process. He was told he had been approved, and yet he couldn't make the move to the airfield. So I got on the phone with a couple of other Green Berets, and we basically used our skill set of, you know, by, with, and through, and we called folks with relationships that had Pashtun drivers, and we moved him through the city. We got him close to the gate. He used his own trade craft to go around the checkpoints, and then we called some people on the inside, worked, you know, and leveraged some relationships there. And they were like, yeah, absolutely. We want, you know, vetted soft partners to come in. But there was throngs of people that were just crowding. So there was no way for the guards to ascertain the difference, right? And so we helped, you know, clarify that, and they gave us a bona fide of pineapple. And we were like, say pineapple. And so he did to the guards, and he was pulled through. And that was when, you know, Task Force Pineapple was born. And it was 5 of us. It was an ABC reporter, James Meek, congressional staffer Kelsey from Waltz's office, and 3 Green Berets. And that was it. And then we just decided to leave it open, that room that we were using, the collaborative room, and then the other Rangers, SEALs, combat veterans who were volunteering to help their translators, their partnered special ops started doing the same thing. We just repeated those techniques. And over 3 days, we helped 700 Afghans get to the airfield and gain entry through the various gates.
That's incredible. I want to get into some of the details about, in 3 days, 700 people. That's amazing. I mean, really, it's incredible.
Yeah.
With this commando you helped rescue, the first one, you said he was getting text messages. Was it death threats, or was it people warning him? What was the nature of these?
Death threats, being beheaded.
Jeez.
And to his phone, so they knew exactly where he was. They were knocking on doors in his neighborhood. Right, they were peering in his uncle's window. I mean, his time was up. And had they caught him, he would have been executed. There's no doubt about it. And other Afghan SOF have been executed. So we knew that his life was in imminent danger. And so we had to take some kind of reasonable action to help him move. I mean, this is a guy who had been shot through the face protecting U.S. Special Forces in combat, and had demonstrated himself time and time again to show up for us, and we had to honor that promise. And the way we did it was to just not work at cross purposes to the coalition or to the State Department. What we did was to fill a gap right there at getting them through the city where it was actually feasible to show up, and then getting them through the Taliban checkpoints by serving as shepherds on our cell phones. Because here's the thing, and this is what I think a lot of people don't understand, and we've tried to communicate to both formal and informal institutions. These folks were terrified. They had been beaten at these checkpoints. Their children were beaten. They hadn't eaten in days. They were, in squalor, waiting for these gates to open, and, ready to just quit and walk away, and they'd rather just face execution. Our shepherds, the people who had pre-existing relationships with them, kept them on the phone, kept them calm, moved them to different places and locations. When one gate closed, another one opened, guided them through, and really closed the loop on the overall apparatus that was struggling, and provided that necessary. There's 700, and that's not counting the other groups that did the same thing. Other informal groups like the Valley Boys, Team America, Task Force Dunkirk. I mean, the veterans really rushed into the breach and supplemented the State Department and the U.S. government, I think, in a very meaningful way.
And so, I mean, how did this really start then? So I understand you had a relationship with them before, working with them, helping them, trying to get American citizenship. You was, of course, one of the guys trained while you were a Green Beret. And I assume he called you up and said, hey, I'm probably not going to make it. I mean, what was the nature of his phone call?
Well, there were texts over Signal every day that, okay, Mazar-e Sharif just fell. Herat just fell. The Taliban just raided the prison in Kandahar. They released all the prisoners. We were getting a day-by-day update from him, and he was growing more and more terrified. And he said to me, Scott, I'm not afraid to die. I'm just afraid to die alone without my brothers. And you think about this. This was those commandos and those special forces, their president abandoned them. Their generals took bribes and abandoned them. And these warriors fought to the last bullet. That they fought until the very end. And again, for us, we've incurred moral injuries as warriors. And there's things you have to do in combat that go against the things that, oftentimes you believe in. Combat's an ugly thing, and you never get over those moral injuries. And this was a situation where we as combat veterans saw a moral injury of national magnitude approaching the United States. And frankly, again, imminent threat to the lives of not just commandos and special forces, but female judges who were pioneers in justice and who prosecuted the Taliban, young girls who demonstrated courage by embarking in the arts with nonprofits. I mean, they were coming to us. We were getting calls from well-placed people in the West Wing to help get their people out, from the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the Secretary of the Air Force. I mean, one after the other, as word spread that we could kind of fill that void. So it was really, it was way bigger than any of us expected, and we just tried to play our position as best we could, and I think we did.
Well, folks, 2 months on now, and we are still totally demonetized by YouTube. But given the situation where we have to censor ourselves if we want to really stay on this platform and make it work, we've decided on something else, which is this. We've launched a new platform called Epoch TV, EPOCHTV.com. And through this, we're able to publish uncensored content. News that can criticize anything we'd like, news that can talk about anything we'd like, news that can give you real information from any part of the world about any topic without having to worry whether individuals will censor it. And in this current environment where information is being controlled, where narratives are being controlled, and where anyone who steps outside the boundaries of what is the accepted narrative by the fact checkers, quote unquote, by different big tech organizations, by media organizations, and so on. This is something that we believe is needed for the modern political environment, where people should be able to call things out. People should be able to question things. This is the basis of the Fourth Estate in America. The belief, again, that media should be able to hold government power in check, and that media should be able to inform the public about the issues they should be informed about, because that is the basis of our election system. An informed public making informed decisions. If you control this system of information, you control the political system. And folks, being a media organization, we can't stand for that. And so again, we have created an uncensored platform, Epoch TV. And anyone who wants to support Crossroads or support our broader mission of bringing real news, uncensored news, that's not afraid to stand up for what matters, please check out our website, epochtv.com, EPOCHTV.com. Check out the link below, and folks, please support us there.